We have Megan Sada, who is the new client acquisition manager at BlackPoint Cyber, another great vendor partner of ours. So Megan, take it away.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say, if anybody can figure out a way to make trade show proof luggage, I am absolutely all in for that. So if somebody does it, please find me on LinkedIn. I would love to see it. But just going to give you guys a really high level overview of BlackPoint. And then obviously we have a breakout room afterwards. So we would love to see some of you guys there. So just to give you guys just a little bit about behind the scenes, how BlackPoint was born. So our founder, John Murchison, was a red teamer in the NSA for quite some time. And when he got out of the NSA, he was really wondering, what was the cybersecurity landscape and were there any tools that would have defended against the tactics he was using towards and against foreign adversaries? And what he found out was a lot of tools were either good and really, really expensive or not so great. And there really wasn't a good stack tool that would give you a lot of the different facets of security that MSPs and smaller businesses truly needed to be safe and secured against the tactics he himself was familiar to using. So that's really where BlackPoint was born. So I don't need to tell you guys a whole lot here about the different stats. You guys all know MSPs, your business is for the most part booming overall. And what we see there is a lot of that is due to advanced security practices. But unfortunately, a lot of MSPs are not adopting advanced security practices. And a lot of the reasons that we see for that are typically either it's really expensive, it's too hard to manage, or even there's just too many tools out there to even know which ones you need in your stack to make a big difference for a decent price point. So usually when we're talking to partners and to MSPs out at these trade shows, we hear a lot of different varieties of different stacks that they're using. But the two that we hear the most, that most people or most MSPs we see fall into, are either they're using a basic stack. So they're using maybe an AV tool, maybe an EDR tool, all the good buzzwords, of course, but something that's protective, but not really 24/7 around the clock monitoring, just really basic level that tends to be a little bit more cost effective. And then on the flip side, we see just as many people that are using, 50 tools to accomplish 10 tasks, as opposed to, something a little bit more streamlined. So the problem there is you've got so much management oversight and overhead that you're going to have more techs on staff to manage between. It's going to take you longer to close tickets and to handle incidents. And then also the cost, right? If you're using 50 tools to accomplish what really you could get done with 10 tools, it's going to increase your overall cost of doing business, which is, as an MSP owner, you guys know, nobody wants that. So here at BlackPoint, and with John's vision, we tried to create something that would really give you guys a lot of the facets of security without giving you something super overwhelming, and also with giving you the right amount of protection for an affordable price point. So everything that you see up on the screen here is actually all bundled under one SKU, one price per month, which makes things extremely easy for you guys to use and to actually do business and transact with BlackPoint. So just a couple things to highlight here. Obviously, BlackPoint, we're born as a full MDR service. So we have an endpoint agent. We can support anything Mac OS and Windows. That agent gives information back to our SOC team. Our SOC team would then triage that incident and remediate as necessary on behalf of you guys. And then the same piece on the cloud side. So we have a integration with 365 and G Suite. And we also just released the new integration with Cisco Duo. So there we're sitting behind somebody like Iron Scales or some of these other email filtering services to give you guys the what happens if somebody does get a legitimate login to one of your accounts. That way we can help you guys shut that down and then remediate as well on your behalf to ensure that we can get that account back up online securely. And the last piece I'll mention here before we go to the last slide is going to be what we call application control. So I know ThreatLocker has been on here a good bit of times. I know a lot of you guys probably use them or use other tools for application control. Really what we're doing here is actually more of the inverse. So instead of you guys going through, you're whitelisting everything that's allowed to run in your environment. Great method, but can be pretty costly and pretty time consuming as well for your techs. we actually created a curated blacklist that allows us to sort of be on the front end of a lot of different attacks that are out there. So if somebody tries to run, example, maybe an RMM tool that you guys don't use for the purposes of their discovery, we can actually shut that down. That alert goes straight to our SOC team. And then our SOC team actually looks at that alongside the cloud piece, alongside our endpoint agent, and figures out what's really going on and ensures that your client is back up online securely, and that no further damage has been done on that. So last slide for me is just some of the stats that we have and that we've seen from our SOC team. So as you guys can see, a lot of things are occurring outside of working hours. That's not really a surprise, but what we do see and what I highly recommend if everybody takes nothing else I said out of the presentation is this cloud response piece. So now this is actually, as of last year, 85% of what we saw was in the cloud. Now for every one on-prem event, we're seeing about 9 to 10 within the cloud. A lot of that's due to COVID, making things a lot easier for a threat actor to gain credentials online. Nobody's protected behind a firewall. Nobody's in their office. It's quite a bit easier to log into an account and do just this much damage. So that's something that we really, really recommend is either, obviously looking at us for cloud or going elsewhere, but it's extremely important that you guys look at something there. So that's all I have for today. Thank you guys for having me, and I would love to see you guys in the breakout room.
Awesome. Thanks, Megan.